a migrant worker coming to Canada do not have the same rights that a Canadian worker have. And that's what my story is about. But to tell you about my story, that in my country, red and white means love. And the group that I'm affiliated to, they told me that's a scanner. They told me to put it on my hat. If the color changes, I have no love. Can I try it? Did the color change? There's some love in my hat. Well, 42 years ago, this year been 43 years ago, I was on the verge of leaving school without completing a secondary school education. What would your life be? What would your life be if without completing a secondary school education? In my home country 43 years ago, Canada helped me to improve my standard of living through an education, through a secondary school education, which happened like maybe 47 years ago. They gifted my country for secondary school. 43 years ago, secondary school places was very limited. You had to be among the best to get a spot. I wasn't the best. You see how slow I speak? Up to now, I'm not the best. You can call me second chance. Canada gave me a second chance in my own country. That was love. In 2009, I was self-employed, doing 5 different things. Just being self-employed, the air is different, right? Being self-employed, or the quality of the air is so different. Doing 5 different things, I felt so comfortable. That when your income is diversified, you feel comfortable. Even though one is affected, you can still live a life. But you know what happened? Just one hurricane messed up my life. That was the lowest point in my life. To be unemployed and a family to support in a developing country, we have no social safety nets. If you work, you support your family. You don't work, you have to support your family. That was the lowest point in my life. And at that point, Canada gave me the opportunity to come and earn my livelihood. On 2 occasions, Canada have been good to me in my home country. A while ago, I told you, a hurricane destroyed my livelihood. What are the countries causing global warming and climate change? What are countries? What are countries? What are people paying the price for global warming and climate change? I am in Canada because of a hurricane. But you know what? Between now and the end, well, at the end of my presentation, I'll decide whether I should punish each and every one of you. Or I will decide whether I would reward each and every one. Why I say that? It's because of your silence. Because of your silence, that is why I'm in Canada. Nobody told me about the injustices that we face in Canada. Nobody. And it is your silence. So I'll decide whether I reward you or whether I punish you. Let me think about it. To tell you my story, a couple of things. Before I came to Canada, my father was arrested, right? And taken to court for stealing a cow. In my countries, we don't have a lot of land, so most people would keep a cow, tie a cow to the rope, right? We don't have a lot of land. You cannot allow it to roam everywhere. What is a cow? What is a cow? A cow is not just an animal with 4 legs. Because of poverty, a cow is a savings account. A cow is an emergency fund. A cow is a credit card. A cow is peace of mind. To buy an animal that feeds on grass, and in a couple of months, you can double, you can triple your returns. Where in Canada, by the way, can you double your returns in a month or 2 or in a short period of time? Is there a place where you can double, triple your returns? That is what a cow is to the people in my country. How would you feel for somebody to steal your credit card or your savings account? And that's how that person felt. So that person brought my father to court. My father said he never, ever stole a cow. So they told him, explain the story. How can the cow leave the person's property and end up on your property? My father said one day he was walking home. He saw something looking like a nice rope. Does that look like a nice rope to you, by the way? He said he saw something look like a nice rope, and he decided to drag the rope home. And when he got home, he decided to check the other end of the rope. Can I check the other end of the rope? Let me see. He said he checked the other end of the rope and he saw something looking like that. Does that look like a cow? A Canadian cow? No. I tried to buy a cow similar to my father's own. They didn't even give me the legs of the cow. Can you believe that? Not even the tail. You see all the trouble migrant workers face in Canada? But the sad truth is, I want you to take off your shoes. and put yourself in the place of a migrant worker. And tell me whether this represents modern and fair working conditions, or whether this represents 18th century working conditions. My father said he saw a nice rope, but me, myself, I don't know if I have a nice rope. I don't know if I have a long rope. I'm not sure. You tell me. On my end, I was forced to pick up my rope. This is my rope. I was forced to pick up my rope. What forced me to pick up my rope? I'm in Canada because I was forced to. GI, that's what forced me to come to Canada. Global inequality. Do we have sufficient chairs in there for everybody? Does Canada have sufficient fresh water for everybody to live a comfortable life? Does everybody have access to comfortable water? Because of inequality. That is why I am in Canada. I was forced to pick up my rope. Why? Because of a hurricane, environmental destruction. I was forced to come to Canada. Who are the ones contributing to the problem? Who are the ones paying the price? I was forced to come to Canada because of the WTO, the World Trade Organization. Because of the World Trade Organization, they literally drove us off our land. We cannot compete with America, the giant. And this is just one of the many institutions they have to keep us. From a child, I've been hearing that we are a developing country. We are developing. What are we developing into? We're still developing. They refer to as because of this institution, they keep us. What is happening? They keep us at a level where they can get disposable labor, cheap material, tax haven, all kinds of things. This is just one of the many institutions that keep us in that category. Because of these three things, I was forced to come to Canada. What did I get upon arrival in Canada? I got two things. I got two things when I got to Canada. One of them is a telephone number. Let me see if I would need a telephone to dial that number, right? Can I use a phone? Does anybody have a phone of them? Does anybody have a phone? Nobody. Nobody wants me to use the phone. You sure? Okay. That's one thing. I got a telephone number. We'll dial that number together, right? And the other thing I got in Canada, I got something which is a chain. That's the story of every migrant worker in Canada. I got a chain, and the chain's a really heavy chain with a pendant of 20. These are the two things I got in Canada, and that's what my story is about. Let's dial this number together. But the simplest way I can tell you that story, I want to tell you that the program that you just, we saw a little bit about, it can be compared to a tree. Because it's winter, I had to get leaves from a different tree, right? Can you believe that? The story of a migrant worker in Canada. The program that brought us to Canada can be compared to a tree. It's like a tree. I'm pretty sure you can see the three simple parts of the tree: the stem, the branches, the leaves. And that is what number 3 is in my telephone. The three simple parts. I am in Canada because of the stem of that tree. And what is the stem of that tree? I am in Canada to do jobs Canadians do not want to do. You know, when they told me I'm coming to do jobs Canadians don't want to do, I thought I was coming to I need to clean my shoes too. I thought I was coming to clean people's shoes. That's what I thought. I bought a whole set of brushes to clean people's shoes. But I came here to do jobs Canadians don't want. And what are the jobs Canadians don't want to do? All the D words you can think of, the dirty jobs, the dangerous jobs, the difficult jobs. That is why we came to Canada. That is why that program is there. In what year that program started? We saw it at the starting of the documentary. Did you see it? 1966. Yes, so 1966 to now, that's an exam question now. 1966 to now, what is that figure? 52. 52 plus 1. This year it's 53 years, right? So that program, which is like a tree, it is 53 years this year. I am in Canada to do jobs Canadians do not want to do. The federal government said, we are going to bring those guys to do those jobs Canadians don't want to do. But they do not have status. They do not have rights to apply for status. What is status? Status is that ingredient. It has two sides to it. It takes care of, I came to Canada, that is immigration. What did I come to do? I came to work in Canada. So Canada have always been using immigration and labor to keep us in that vulnerable position. And what keeps us that is status, not having status. Your vulnerability is determined by status. And the federal government said, we're going to bring those guys to do this job, but they do not have rights to apply for status. And on top of it, the leaves. The federal government said, those guys are coming to do those dirty jobs. They do not have rights to apply for status. And I'm going to tie them to the employer. What ties me to my employer? What ties me to my employer? My work permit ties me. I have a closed work permit. So even though my employer treats me well or does not treat me well, I am tied to my employer. So we are at the mercy of our employer. Is that a good program? Is that a fair program? Is that a just program? That is that program. Where am I talking about? Is that in the US? Right here. Even today, maybe. I hope I'll test you to that. Even today, maybe, that the things that we eat, once a migrant worker is involved, that is the reality of it. Now, my pendant is 20, right? I want you to picture, how old is that program, that tree? 53 years, right? I want you to picture that tree with 20 fruits. We just agreed that that tree is not a fair tree. That program is not a fair program. So these are the 20, that is what I call the 20 dark sides of Canada. But because of time, let me see how fast I can run through them. I'm pretty sure you saw some of them already. These are what I call the 20 dark sides of Canada. And this is what I mean when I tell you that the fruits that you eat, the vegetables that you eat, these are the injustices. Number one, I am tied to my employer. Any fruit that you eat, once a migrant worker is involved, remember that the migrant worker is tied to the employer. But being tied to your employer is nothing. Being tied to the things that you love is nothing. But look at the others. You're tied to your employer. You do not have the same rights as a Canadian. Why? Because of your status, temporary status. Look at number 3. The farmer controls your housing. What did you see about the housing there? Overcrowded. Below standard most times, not regulated. And where do we live? We live on the farms. We are isolated. Number 4, we have a contract and it's not enforceable. A piece of paper. And Canada is paperwork. And what is it? A piece of paper. It's not enforceable. Number 5, the moment we speak up, the moment you speak about those injustices, they would send you home. The threat of deportation keeps us quiet. That is why I'm here today. The threat of deportation keeps us quiet. Who would tell you about these stories? When you go to the supermarket, the more I tell my group to send those fruits that speak to you all in the supermarkets, we have the tough time. We want the fruits to speak to you all. Everything, the story is quiet. Why is it quiet? The threat of deportation keeps us quiet. Can I run? My computer is giving some trouble, right? Number 6, that's a given. Because of the color of my skin, Global South, because of the color of our skin, that's a given. We face harassment and racism, that's a given. Number 7, can you believe that? We are often denied minimum. You know what's minimum? You know what's minimum? Give me a word that's below minimum. Because why I say that? After we get minimum wage, there's so many other deductions that from it, it is below minimum wage. And we are often denied minimum wage, and we are denied overtime pay. We work long hours, but at a flat rate. Number 8, why we came to Canada? To do dangerous jobs. But look at that, when we do those dangerous jobs, most times we have very little or no protection. And if you watch that other documentary, Migrant Dreams, you'll see clear cases where the guys were able to document pesticides being sprayed, but they're really in proximity to the pesticides, but they have no protection. Number 9, we are here to do dangerous jobs with very little protection, but the moment we get injured, they would send us back home. We come to Canada as a well-oiled machine to do dangerous job. The moment you get injured, so easy to send you back home. Well, I said so easy, you know why? It's the employers who control the travel agency that books our flight in and out of the country. Number 10, look at that. We are here to do dangerous jobs with very little protection. But up to now, not one inquest into the death of any migrant worker who've died as a result of the work. All the workplaces that I've been to, there's always a board. What's it called? Sorry? Health and safety, okay? And you'd see that green book. I call it the Bible. It's so thick with guidelines and procedures and principles. All of that is as a result of inquests into work-related accidents. Not one inquest, not one in the whole of Canada. This is how your fruits and your vegetables have been produced. Number 13. Number 11, sorry. Why is that so? Why is that so? It's simply because the labor laws, they exclude us. They have one set of laws for Canadians, another set of laws for migrant workers, agricultural workers. Number 12, and the little rights that we have, they are not being enforced. Number 13, can you believe that? We pay EI. What does EI mean? I didn't hear you.
Employment insurance.
Did you hear? Can you repeat what you said?
Employment insurance.
You sure? For me, yes, you're right. But for me, we contribute into it, but we cannot access it. So for us, we are out of it. So I call it employment outsurance. We are out of it. We pay into it. From 1966, we contribute into it, but we cannot access it. How do you call that? Is that insurance? Number 14, of all the 20 injustices, none of them, you can put all of them together, none of them would total to that. To be physically separated from the people that you love is the greatest injustice that any worker, any migrant, in fact, all migrant workers face in any country, regardless where they are. And we are forced to come to Canada. We are forced for so many reasons, and to be physically separated from the people that you love is the greatest injustice. Every day we fight two wars in Canada. On one hand, we fight for better conditions. We want better conditions. On the other hand, you keep worrying about your family back home. You saw a little bit of that in El Contractor. Number 15, why is that so? Is it because right now is winter and that is why it is so? No, it's because of the Canadian immigration policy. And that is a human-made policy. That's not a natural policy. And that is why I speak loud. You know why? It's humans that make that, and that can be changed. That must be changed, and it will be changed. It is your silence. Remember the starting? I'll decide again. Your silence on that. That is why I'm in Canada. Now I'll decide whether I'll punish y'all or whether I'll reward you, right? Is that a threat or a promise? And number 16, can you believe that? We are here to do jobs Canadians do not want to do, and we have to pay to come. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? That's why I tell you, I want another word that means below minimum. After we make it minimum, we have to pay to come. Can you believe that? Number 17, look at it. It is illegal for farm workers to unionize. Illegal. What became legal recently in Canada?
Cannabis.
I didn't hear you.
Cannabis.
Do you have any in your bag?
No.
No. It's legal. Why don't you have it? You say it's legal and she don't want it. Okay. But it is illegal. You say it's illegal and she doesn't want it, right? And it is illegal and I want it. It is illegal for farm workers to unionize. What does that say? What does that say? Number 18. Why is that so? Because there's so much power, the power imbalance. There's so much power in the hands of our employer. Power imbalance. And look at me. I have a big mouth. Would they listen to me? There's no power in it. I cannot vote. Would they listen to me? Power imbalance. Where's the power, right? Number 19. Look at it. Canada goes to the UN. Are you the UN?
No.
You look like the UN. Canada goes to the UN and tells the UN that the same rights and privileges that my citizens enjoy, I'll extend them to refugees. That's what Canada tells the world. Canada goes to China. Are you China?
No.
You're China. Canada goes to China and tells China, improve your human rights records. That's the kind of Canada we know. It's a country of love, right? Improve your human rights records. The same rights and privileges, we'll extend them to. That's the kind of Canada we know. A country of love. If you're in a difficult country, come and have a new start. Isn't that what Canada is about? But yet still quietly, Canada haven't signed it. Canada haven't ratified it. Canada haven't implemented the UN's Declaration on the Rights of Migrant Workers and their families. Isn't Canada being two-faced? Number 20, it is illegal for farm workers to unionize. My group, it is not a union, it is illegal. But my group is a grassroots organization. The government do not want to consult with us. Where is that happening? In the land of freedom, in the land of fairness, in the land of diversity. It's not Canada? But look at all those injustices that we endure, right? So that is what I mean when I tell you that these are the 20 injustices that we face. This is what is hanging around our necks. And these are the injustices that are associated with your fruits, your vegetables, the wine that you drink, the tobacco that you smoke, the NPI, what else? The lobsters, anything. Anytime the migrant worker is involved in those injustices, these are the 20 injustices. But I have another number. I have another number in the telephone. What is it? Number 5. Let me get to number 5. Number 5, I want to tell you, the 5 represents the root of that tree, right? At the root of that tree, we need to get to the root of that tree, the root of that program. And at the root of that program, it boils down to that. People who see the world as a place that sustains us. All our daily needs comes from it, and we have to take care of it. Some people see it like it is a loan from our children, and we want to make sure that when we hand it back to our children, that is better than what we have, right? Some people see the world like that. But other people, they see it as a place to conquer, give it to me, and exploit it. Now, these are 2 schools that are there. 2 different schools. Can these 2 schools coexist? People see it as a place to sustain, to take care of, and people see it as a place to grab. Can these 2 schools coexist? I don't know. But everywhere, those people, the latter group, everywhere they landed, everywhere they put their foot, they wanted to grab, and exploit. Everywhere they landed, what did we see? We saw genocide. Everywhere they landed, genocide. We did not just see slavery. We saw brutal, barbaric slavery. Everywhere they landed, we saw colonization. In Canada, we even continuing to this day, what did we see? RS. As a result of these people landing the feet in Canada, RS. What is RS?
Residential school.
Residential school. Were you a teacher there?
Yeah.
How you know that? Yes, residential school. What year that started? 1831, ended in 1996. Recently. When did that happen, in the US or Canada? Right here, right under our nose. And look at that, talking about residential schools. For the first time I ever come across a Truth and Reconciliation Commission coming up with 94 calls to action. You know what 94 calls to action? It's calling on you and calling on me. Calling on you and me to do 94 things to make right the injustices that the indigenous people endure. 94 things, 90, not 2 things to make it right or 10, 94. That tells you, to do 94 things to make it right, that tells you how deep and how wide and how high and how injustices exist in Canada. 94 residential schools. I was monitoring number 58. Can anybody figure out what is number 58? Okay, here's your notes. You need to revise that. Number 58 is the Pope. They asked the Pope to come to Canada 1 year after the report was published or submitted, 1 year after, to come and apologize to the indigenous people. Did he come? Will he be coming? What does that say? Then we go to CRW. In Canada, I've seen a vehicle with CRV, but I have CRW. What kind of vehicle is that? Have you seen a CRW vehicle? No. CRW, that is the vehicle on which Canada, was built. The Chinese railroad workers. Canada's expansion was because of these people. And it is said, I went to the monument recently, it is said roughly 17,000 came, roughly 4,000 of them perished. So out of 4, 1 of them died because of the difficult condition. And what happened to these Chinese railway workers? 2 things. 1, at the end of their contracts, at the end of the program, what happened? They did not even want them in Canada. They used them in Canada, they abused them 4,000 out of 17,000 died. That tells you how much the abuse was, right? And at the end, they even refused them. From the expansion of Canada, Canada have been using immigration and labor. Immigration and labor. The Chinese head tax, immigration and labor to keep people in that difficult, vulnerable position. The 60 scope. Do we need to study that today? No, we'll not study that today, okay? You said no, right? Yeah. Okay, THC. What is THC? Is that legal or illegal? Huh?
Legal.
It's illegal. So I can bring THC to the class, right? Did I bring any? THC, the home children. It is said that over 100,000 children were taken from orphanages in England to work on the farms. When you look around you, a lot of the property, a lot of the assets, a lot of the wealth that we see is of the back of slavery. It's of the back of innocent people. And the SAWP, which is what I've been talking about, the seasonal agricultural workers program, which is what that documentary is based on, the seasonal agricultural workers program, that is still happening today. It's not something that happened, it's still happening. So it's a continuation of slavery. It's a continuation of the dark sides of Canada. Where is all of that happening? It's happening on stolen land. It's happening on dishonored treaties. Where is that happening? That is happening right here in our society. So in closing, I want to tell you a couple of simple things, right? A couple of things. One is being a migrant worker in Canada, it means that you're not being a migrant worker in Canada, you're not being treated equally. Why? Because we are denied. The moment that you're denied, we are denied human rights, we are denied labor standards. Denied. Human rights and labor. So we're not being treated fairly. So why is that so? Simply because the labor laws and immigration laws, they work together hand in hand to keep us in that position. And let me see if I can say that quickly. There are 4 groups of people who work around migrant workers. What are the 4 groups? The employers. What do the employers want? Profit before people. Cheap labor, that's what the employers want. What does the unions want? Before the labor unions in Canada, they didn't want migrant workers to come to Canada because if there's a strike, they do not want the employers to have access to cheap labor, so to break down the strike. They didn't want that. But right now, they realize that the same issues that we face, that they stand to face it too. So now that the unions realize that the difficult working conditions, government want to bring it in. For example, the government in power, they got into office on the grounds of real change. Now that they're in office, what is the song that they're singing? Short-term employment. Isn't that the same issue with us? We are seasonal, we are temporary, short-term employment. So the unions now see that we are in the same boat. The citizens, I have watered it down, the citizens, they do not want us to live in society. They want us to be isolated. I said citizens, which group of people do not want us to be among society? The government is happy to please all these people. You know why? At the end of the day, they do not have to pay to settle these people. They don't have to pay to provide language interpretation. The government do not have to pay, and they get cheap labor. The government is happy, right? Keeping everybody happy. That is what the government is about. Now let me see if I can say a couple of things in closing. I feel all migrant workers feel like a sandwich. In my home country, the sending countries, all the sending countries, Mexico, name it, all the countries that provide kind of workers, unemployment is high. Lots of issues. Difficult to get work. We come to Canada thinking that we'll have a better life. Look at the difficult conditions that we face. So we are caught between a rock and a hard place. So I'm like a sandwich, but I view it as an egg sandwich. How many of you like egg sandwich? Only you? 2 of you, right? I want you to take me to the farm in Canada that produces that kind of eggs, right? Will you take me to that farm? Yes, it's like an egg. To me, it's like an egg sandwich. We all know that an egg is a fragile, delicate stuff, right? It can break easily. But we also know that the egg although it can break easily, but it too can break itself from inside. The question I want to ask you is, from this moment, the things that you're doing, the things that you will continue to do, are they going to provide the pressure that's needed to break the egg from the outside? Or are they going to create the conditions that cause that egg to break from the inside and bring life? That is what I would like to leave with you. And the last thing I want to say, because of time, is of the 20 injustices that we face, in Canada, they say if you have a lot of pain, you buy Tylenol or Advil. For our 20 headaches, our 20 pain, that is our cure for all, status. And what is status? Status is the only one thing that will take care of both immigration and labor. If I have status to me, what does status means to me? Status means that thing that would allow me to be treated fairly as a worker. Status to me means that thing that will help me to unite with my family. Status means that thing that will allow me to have an open work permit. That if I'm being, ill-treated by an employer, that I can go to another employer. It will put the pressure on my employer to make sure that they put things in place to keep and attract, good working conditions that would attract workers. So in a nutshell, status is that one thing that would bring more or less equality and fairness for every migrant worker in Canada. Thank you.